Chapter 41. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 41. Compatibilitytest.org. He wants a contract wife to act as a mother to his daughter and complete the appearance of a perfect family. Well, that's the story that he's giving us, Justin said with a hint of suspicion in his voice. What do you mean? Is there something else that I should know? I asked dubiously. Well, this isn't confirmed, so it's off the record, but there are strange rumors about his ex-wife and how she passed away, Justin said before he pressed his lips into a thin line. What happened to her? I asked as I was starting to get a really bad feeling. No one knows. The official disclosure says that she was terminally ill and passed away a short while after giving birth to their daughter, Justin explained before sighing softly. I see. I said softly. Will you take him on? Justin asked as he stared at me hopefully. Are all cases in your agency as complex as this? I asked curiously. Nope, but then again, the other cases don't pay as well, Justin replied before pouting his lips at me. I see. I guess I can give it a try. If things don't work out then, I said before trailing off. You're right. We can terminate the contract, Justin said reassuringly. Right. Let's try it, I agreed after some thought. I couldn't help but wonder if Adrian even remembers me from our previous encounter. If I had to guess, then probably not. He's requested to have dinner with you and you two can decide whether to go ahead with the contract then, Justin explained. So, it's like an interview of sorts? I asked as I cocked my head to the side. Not really. More like a compatibility test. Justin replied. He requested for this. I asked just to make sure that I understood correctly. Apparently so. Of course, if it doesn't work out, you'll get paid for your time, Justin replied. Sounds like a blind date. But okay. I murmured before shrugging my shoulders. I've got just the dress for you. Justin cried out in excitement. Although I remembered Adrian to be such a gentleman, I still felt extremely nervous to meet him again. The first time we met was by accident, but this time things were different. He had requested to meet me to see if we were compatible to form a fake relationship and family for the sake of his young daughter. The dress that Justin picked out for me was slightly over the top. It made me feel too overdressed even if this is a very romantic and high-class restaurant. The rooftop restaurant boasted a beautiful night view of the city from a very tall hotel building. It was the perfect place for couples with more than a little extra money to burn to have a date. As for me, this is the place that Adrian had chosen for my job interview of sorts. The light blue dress that Justin had chosen did nothing to hide the curves of my body or my cleavage. Dressed to impress indeed. When I arrived, Adrian was already there. When he spotted me, he got up from his seat at once and came to my side. I'm not sure if it was just my own imagination, but he seemed very happy to see me again. To my surprise, I found myself smiling quite naturally at him. We exchanged a few words of greeting before he offered me his arm and guided me to the table. A candle-lit dinner with excellent wine was really the best way to kick off our first date. I wondered what he wanted to talk about. This was my first time having a formal interview for a contract wife job and I wasn't sure what to expect. Justin just told me to be myself and go with the flow. I had no idea why he had so much confidence in me when I didn't have much confidence in myself right now. You look stunning in the dress. I almost didn't recognize you at first, Adrian complimented me before he flashed me a charming smile. Although it was partly flattery, I knew that there was some honesty in his words and smile. I found myself smiling back at him with ease. Thank you. I guess I do look quite different compared to when we first met. I replied, recalling how I was dressed the day that we met. Trying to live casually and heading to the supermarket turned into quite an adventure on that day. Should we order? Adrian asked after I had had enough time going through the menu. Sure. I replied. Honestly, I felt too nervous to feel hungry. I couldn't care less about the food. While we placed our orders with the smartly dressed waiter, I couldn't help but wonder if my nervousness showed. The waiter left us, and we were alone once more. "Thank you for coming today. I know that it's quite sudden and all," Adrian began saying. "Not at all. Thank you for inviting me here. It's a nice place with a great view," I replied politely. "Do you like places like this?" Adrian asked. The truth was, I do, but I guess when you've been to romantic places like this often, it does lose its charm, I replied truthfully. Adrian smiled and then laughed at my blunt and honest response. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't used to these overly expensive and romantic places. In my life, I've dated millionaires and billionaires for all of my adult life. Nothing about places like this really excites me much anymore. That doesn't mean that I don't appreciate you. And the gorgeous night view though, I added, and Adrian laughed even harder than before. I began laughing at myself and along with him as I watched him laugh carefreely. His smile and how his face lit up when he laughed was very charming. He was many years older than I am, but I felt like he had a hint of childishness in him that I found refreshing. Just like before, I found talking to Adrian easy, and it wasn't long before the ice between us completely melted. To be continued. Chapter 42. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. 42. Touched. You're so honest. I really like that about you, Adrian complimented me. Thank you, I guess. I replied humbly. Adrian smiled at me, and I could feel that he was suddenly quite serious. I guess this is where the real talk starts. I smiled a little at him to encourage him to start. Well, you've probably heard from your manager about my request. That day that you were at the hospital, you met my daughter briefly, Adrian said with his gentle eyes on me. I nodded as I remembered the little girl that ran up to Adrian. My daughter's name is Millie. Her mother, my ex-wife, passed away shortly after giving birth to her, so Millie doesn't remember her mother at all. I've tried my best to raise her up properly for the past 5 years, but I guess that it's hard being a single father. To be honest, it's been harder than I thought, Adrian told a summary version of his story. I won't lie and say that I've got experience with kids, but it does seem like a tough job to be a single father, I chimed in. It is, but I really love Millie and I want the best life for her. I try my best to spend time with her, but my job does get in the way. The fact that she's a girl also makes it more difficult for me. Each day that she grows up, the more I feel like it would be better for her to have a mother, Adrian said, and I could see the determination in his eyes. His goodwill and his effort to put in place the best for his daughter was very admirable. It was such a pity that his ex-wife left this world too soon. I understand. Honestly, I've never had children before and I'm not sure if I can properly play the role of her mother. I confessed honestly. I still think that you'll do better than me though, he said with a shy laugh. Maybe. I mused. The truth is Millie has been asking about her mother and why our family isn't like her friends. I guess they're just at that age when kids start talking, Adrian explained. I see. I murmured while deep in thought. You know what our society is like. Everyone is expected to be perfect, and not having a mother is probably bothering Millie. Her friends and the people around her are probably making her question the fact that she doesn't have a mother a lot more than before, Adrian said solemnly. I think I can understand that. It's hard when you're different from what society expects of you. However, I don't think Millie should feel bad about not having a mother. She's got you and I'm sure you're an awesome father, I said while trying to sound encouraging. I wished I'm that great of a father. I try my best, but I probably have a lot to work on and it'll be great if you can work together with me to figure it all out, Adrian said hopefully. My eyes widened at his unexpected words. I had always thought that I would be tested when I met him, but it seemed like he just wanted to convince me to help him out. I would like to help you, but that I'm not sure if I'm cut out for the job, I replied honestly. If Adrian is worried about how people around Millie is viewing her, then I'm probably not the best candidate for the job. Apart from the fact that I had no experience with children, my personal history isn't exactly perfect. It would be complicated for Millie to have a mother who was recently married to a con man who recently just committed suicide too. It's unfortunate, what happened with your ex-husband, Adrian said as his hand reached for mine from across the table. Oh. I mumbled. So, he knows. Of course, he knows. Everyone knows. Sorry, I don't think I should take this job after all. You may not think so, but I believe that my past will present more problems for Millie if I pose as her new mother. I apologized before smiling regretfully at him. What if you just start by being my girlfriend? I mean, we don't have to be engaged or married or anything. You can be her mother informally. You'll just be dating me, Adrian suggested as his hand tightened over mine. Then people can say that you have bad taste in women. I teased as I shook my head at him. Why would you say something like that? Is it because of what your ex-husband did? His crimes are his and you are you should not confuse the two things together. I think that you're a kind and honest person. Your beauty is also a good bonus to have, by the way, Adrian said so seriously that I was tempted to believe him. I blinked at his words before I laughed quite loudly at him. Quickly, I tried to collect myself as I placed a hand over my mouth. I'm not as great of a woman that you're trying to make me out to be, I replied while still laughing lightly at the ridiculousness of his words. I disagree. What kind of woman would run out in front of a car to save a stranger in need, he asked, and the earnest look in his eyes scared me. A stupid one. I replied softly as I stared into his beautiful green eyes. It's weird. I came here with the objective to get hired, but now that I'm here in front of him, I didn't want to take on the job anymore. It wasn't because I didn't like Adrian, but it was probably because I had started to take a liking to him that I feared that I may cause trouble to him and his precious daughter. Won't you consider my offer? Adrian asked. I couldn't reply to him straight away. Instead, I looked down as I thought hard about what I should do. The truth was that I wanted to help him, but I wasn't sure if I could do it well enough. I felt Adrian's eyes on me, and I hesitated to look up to meet his kind green eyes. To be continued. Chapter 43. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 43. I'll take care of you. I appreciate the offer, really. However, I think you should consider someone else. Perhaps Justin can introduce you to other women from his agency. I politely refused his offer. I have considered other women before, but I don't feel like any of them has what I'm looking for. If you don't accept the offer, I guess I'll have to continue on as a single dad, Adrian said, sounding defeated. He looked so sad and deflated that it made me feel so guilty for being the source of his distress. Why do you want me to take this job so badly? I asked curiously. I think you'll do great at it, and I also want to help you out. I think your situation is unfortunate and there are many things that happened that was beyond your control. Why don't you help me and allow me to help you out? Adrian offered passionately. It was like his kindness and earnestness struck a chord within me. The way his eyes held mine as he waited patiently for my answer reminded me of someone that I knew from my childhood days. Perhaps that was why I made the decision that I did. You remind me of someone. Very kind. I replied softly after some thought. You also remind me of someone that I used to know. Young and full of life, Adrian replied before offering me a gorgeous smile. I look forward to working with you. And Millie. I said before smiling at him. Adrian's face lit up as his green eyes widened in slight disbelief at my words of agreement. The look of happiness on his face gave me some confidence that I had made the right decision. When he flashed a radiant and captivating smile my way, I knew that I had only seen a brief sample of Adrian's charismatic character and that there was a lot more to come. I'll take care of you, Adrian promised. The rest of the evening that I spent in his company passed by in a blink of an eye. We relaxed into each company, and I had to say that I enjoyed my time talking to him immensely. Although we didn't discuss anything serious, the small talk we made gave me quite a lot of insight to the man that he was. Adrian offered to drive me home, but I turned him down. I was still staying with Justin, and he had promised to pick me up when I wanted to head back. "Thank you for the kind offer, but Justin is here to pick me up," I declined politely. "Is that the case? That's unfortunate. I would have loved to spend more time with you," Adrian said, and I could hear regret in his voice. "We'll probably have a lot of time when I start working for you," I said reassuringly. "You mean when you start dating me," Adrian quickly corrected with a teasing smile. "Yeah, that you can put it that way too," I replied with a small laugh. "I look forward to it." "I'll be in touch," he said. "Sure. Me too." I readily agreed. Adrian was perfect in every way, and if I was any younger or less experienced, I think I would have fallen for his charms right away. He walked me to where Justin was waiting for me in his car. After opening the door for me, I got into the car, and we said our polite goodbyes. "That doctor is smoking hot in that gray suit," Justin cried out excited as he drove away. He brought a hand up and started fanning himself like he was in heat. It was so funny how he always exaggerates things in his own way. "You sound disgusting," I teased. "Never mind me and how disgusting I sound. How did it go?" "You two love birds were hitting it off right in front of me, so I don't even know why I'm bothering to ask," Justin asked and then started answering his own question. "It's all good. I'm hired," I declared proudly. "Oh, yes. Yes. First official client coming right up," Justin yelled at the top of his lungs. "Calm down," I hissed at him. "I'm going to send him the contract first thing tomorrow morning and make sure that the deal is properly signed and sealed." Justin continued yelling. Justin laughed and sung in the car loudly until we made it back to his place. His happiness seriously rubbed off on me, and I found myself smiling even long after I had gotten into bed after taking a relaxing shower. Adrian and I had exchanged numbers so that we could keep in touch at his suggestion. I smiled a little to myself as I felt heat rush to my cheeks. It had been many years since I last felt this way as I stared down at the text message that had just popped up on my phone. It was short and simple, but it made my heart skip more than a beat. "Good night" was all that the message said, but it was signed with his name, Adrian. The next day, I moved into my new apartment. The furniture that I had ordered will be arriving today. Any moment now, the delivery guy should turn up with my delivery. I spent almost the entire day supervising the delivery guy's ensemble all the furniture that I had ordered and put them in place where I wanted them. It was late in the afternoon by the time everything was done, and the delivery guys left. Looking around the sparsely decorated room, I was quite satisfied with the result. All the essentials were there, and the room was tidy and clean. If I spent a few days here, the place should look lived in and homier. The curtains were installed already too. I walked over to the curtain covering the glass sliding doors that led out to the balcony and pulled them to the side. My excitement suddenly vanished at the view that I saw from my room. Smack on the building opposite the one I was in, was the building with the large billboard promoting the launch of Eros's new album. Of course, it had a huge photo of him on it. I wonder when they're going to take it down. To be continued. Chapter 44. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 44 Lessons about love. Laughing a little at my cursed fate, I wondered how long I'd have to live with it before it got taken down. Quickly, I closed the curtain and headed out with the intention to explore my new neighborhood a little. After all, I had a completely free day today and I worked so hard in moving in. I truly deserve a break. Heading out was the right decision. The weather outside was perfect for a casual stroll. The location of the apartment building was very convenient with many shops lining the streets. There were convenience stores and restaurants. My feet came to a stop when I arrived at the patisserie where Eros dropped by to buy some macarons for us. Just like that day, the shop display was lined with many pretty treats, and they seemed to sparkle like jewels. While I was admiring the pastries and their lovely pastel colors, my phone started ringing. Of course, it was Justin who was calling. They want a contract wife for Eros. I asked in shock after hearing what Justin had to say. More like a contract girlfriend. The very classic fake girlfriend relationship stuff, Justin confirmed. Why would he need a fake girlfriend? I bet he has a lot of girls, I asked in wonder. I think the issue is he has too many that it's like he doesn't have one, Justin replied with a dry laugh. I'm not sure that I completely get it, but okay. I mumbled as my brows knitted together. Justin had told me that Eros's agency got in contact with him for a project. They would like Justin and me to meet up with them at their headquarters tomorrow to discuss it. We'll find out more tomorrow. That's all I was told, Justin said helplessly. I'm backing out of this one if it gets too messy, I stated up front. Sure, I don't want to get too involved with celebrities either, Justin concurred. Tomorrow came much faster than I had hoped, and it seemed like I didn't have enough time to prepare for my encounter with my potential client and employers. Justin drove me to the large skyscraper where we were supposed to have our meeting. I stood next to Justin in front of the large glass building as I tilted my head back and looked up. The headquarters of GH Entertainment looked even more impressive in real life than it did whenever I saw it in the news on television. Since this entertainment company acts as the agency of many famous people from actors, musicians to comedians, it wasn't rare for this building to appear in the news when the famous are caught in front of it by the reporters looking to interview them. GH Entertainment is also the agency that manages Eros and his band Eros Wings, having supported him since the start of his career way back when he was still a young teenager and a music prodigy. If you want to ask me why I knew so much about him and his career, well, I did my homework. This wasn't just a casual meeting, it was a business meeting where I had to win a business deal. Knowing the basics about my potential client is a must. I read up on many articles about Eros and his band that Justin had provided and also some other materials that I found myself online. Even though I wasn't a fan, I had to admit that his professional records and passion for music and whatever he does were extremely impressive. I'm going to get straight to the point. As you know, Eros is a highly successful musician, actor, and celebrity. Lately, he's gotten into films and acting a lot more than before. Maybe you've seen his latest movies and such. Of course, he's still very much active in music, which is still his core, a manager from GH Entertainment said. He was probably in his 50s and his hair and beard was a mix of white and gray. I could tell from the way he spoke that he truly valued Eros as an artist, but he also sounded extremely strict. Yes, I've seen his films. His acting is amazing. Justin said, and it was clear that he was a die-hard fan. The same couldn't be said about me though. The problem is that all his films are action and sci-fi films. The real problem is that Eros can't act in any romance films or series, the manager confessed with a concerned sigh. That's a real big problem because romance is a very big market and the market that his female fans are looking forward to seeing him in. You know, all those women and girls waiting for him to star in romantic heart-throbbing movies, series, commercials, and the list goes on and on, Mark, Eros's manager, added in. So basically, we're missing out on all that big money, the manager concluded before he pursed his lips tightly. If he can't act, then shouldn't you just send him to acting school or get him to take acting courses? I asked, not quite understanding the issue. You say that as if we haven't tried. Trust me, we've tried all those things, but he can't interact with women romantically on or off camera, the manager said before closing his eyes like he had just seen a living nightmare. What do you mean exactly? Justin asked suspiciously. Eros views women as nothing more than something that he can have sex with. He's never wanted and has never had a romantic relationship with women before. For him, it's just physical sex, Mark said as he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Love isn't a concept that Eros can understand or express, the manager chimed in with a nod. So, we were thinking that if he can start dating a woman like yourself, he might understand how relationships between a man and a woman is supposed to work, Mark finally arrived at his conclusion. You want me to teach him that about love? I asked, trying to summarize the task at hand. To be continued. Bnoel.m. Chapter 45. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 15 minutes with him. If that was what they wanted, then I'm saying goodbye to this client and this case. Asking someone who doesn't believe in love to teach another about love is too much of a stretch, and I'm not about to take on a task that I know is impossible. Precisely, the manager said resolutely. Of course, we're not asking you to parade around publicly as Eros's girlfriend. No one can know about your relationship, even if it's a fake one, because it will obviously affect his popularity if people found out that he has a girlfriend. Instead, we'll have you date him in secret while posing as his assistant manager, the agency representative said. Rest assured, you don't actually have to be his real manager. You just need to act like one enough so that the people around us will believe it. I'm his real manager, so I'll still do my job, Mark explained. I was starting to see what they wanted, but the more I understood, the more impossible this whole task just seemed to me. Sorry, but that I don't think that's going to be possible. I'm very sorry, but I can't take on this request after all, I said, trying to sound regretful. The truth was, I wasn't regretful at all. I knew that I had to avoid this case like a minefield. Why don't you have a talk with him before you decide? Eros hasn't been open to the idea until very recently, the manager said with a polite smile. Yes, we went through many potential candidates with him, but he turned them all down. This is the first time that he's agreed to meet with a candidate, Mark quickly added. I see. I murmured. He should be here soon. He's wrapping up his dance practice as we speak, Mark said as he checked the time on his watch. Ha! He's going to be here. As if on cue, the door to the room opened and a tall man walked in wordlessly. He was dressed very differently from how he's shown in public and in the media. Eros was dressed in very casual and comfortable-looking clothes. Black baggy pants, thin and white sleeveless shirt that did nothing to hide his muscular arms and well-toned body, a light blue towel around his neck. His hair was wet, it was clear that he just came out of the shower. His blonde hair looks a few shades darker now that it's wet. He's so hot that oh my god. Justin whispered as he nudged me with his elbow. I guess that's the standard reaction that people have towards Eros. Justin's reaction as he fanned his hot face with his hands was enough to convince me that Eros coming out of the shower wasn't a scene that should be seen by the public. It could cause serious public disturbances amongst the female population. So much for all that, I don't want to get too involved with celebrities either stuff. You're here. Eros said as his eyes met mine. I bit my lower lip and it felt like it was just us alone in the world in that moment. Eros did not pay any attention to the other people in the room. Not knowing how to greet him, I just nodded. No one should find out that I've actually met him before. Does he recognize me? I have 15 minutes. Let's go, Eros said as he gestured for me to follow him. I could feel everyone's eyes on me as I got out of my seat and followed Eros out of the room. Our destination was the room right next door. It was a meeting room with a large table and a set of leather sofas. The moment that I stepped into the room, Eros closed the door and locked it. Surprisingly, I was more curious than scared. Without a word, Eros plopped himself down on the long sofa and relaxed into it. Slowly, I headed for the sofa opposite him. Not there. Come sit next to me here, Eros said as he waved me over to him. I'm fine here, I replied flatly. Are you scared? Of me? Eros asked with a soft laugh. Of course, not. I muttered as I glared straight at him. Come, he said invitingly as his hand patted the empty spot on the sofa next to where he was sitting. I headed over to where he was sitting and sat down next to him, ignoring the fact that he looked more than ready to wrap his arm around my shoulders. So, were the macarons from the other day yummy? Eros asked before smiling brightly at me. Is that what he wanted to ask me in private? Yes, it was. Thank you. I replied honestly. Are you still mad about the other day? He asked as he shifted his weight on the sofa to turn towards me. To my own surprise, I couldn't find it in myself to be mad at him at all. No. The macarons worked, so I'm not mad anymore, I replied with a small smile. When they showed me a photo of you, I was really surprised. Eros said with a gleam in his eyes. Is it because you didn't think that I'll be working a job like this? I asked directly. It's a common reaction, so I wouldn't be surprised or offended if that was what he thought. Not that. You looked so beautiful in your photo that I didn't recognize you at first. You look very pretty today too, but I still think the you from the other day looked better. Eros said as he seemed to recall some memories. How so? I couldn't help asking. You looked more real, he replied before winking at me. Your manager and agency rep told me that you were not interested in this before, and it's a shame for me to do this when you've finally shown some interest, but I'm going to have to turn down this job after all, I said solemnly. Why? He asked, although he didn't seem shocked about my refusal. I don't think I'm cut out for this job. I won't be able to do it well. I tried to explain before trailing off. To be continued. Chapter 46. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. 46. His dislike of women. Eros looked directly at me, but his golden eyes were blank, like he didn't understand or didn't give a damn about what I was saying. I have a problem, you see. I don't like women and I don't want to have anything to do with them. Except for sex, that is. I love sex with women, that's all, he stated bluntly. Aha. I murmured, not quite sure how to react to his honest and straightforward confession. But you're different, he said, and his eyes zoomed in on me. Is this the part where I'm supposed to turn and make a run for it? How so? I asked, fully composed. You smell very nice. Eros replied after some thought. I made a thoughtful sound because I wasn't sure how to react to that. Shall we give it a try? Eros asked casually. Give what a try? I asked, although I started to have a pretty good idea of what he was referring to. Sex, he replied without hesitation. Ednell.co. I was beginning to understand why his agency had major concerns on how he develops relationship with women. The real issue was that he wasn't interested in developing any relationship with them. All he wanted from them was sex. I sighed loudly and he immediately gave me a confused look. You see, asking straight up for sex isn't how you build a relationship with a girl, I said dryly. Is that a no? Eros asked, sounding more confused than disappointed. Of course, it's a no. I cried out loudly. That's strange. Are you ill today? Or is it that time of the month so you don't want to do it? Eros asked as his eyes widened innocently. I furrowed my eyebrows and I felt like I was about to get a massive headache. This guy, he just doesn't get it at all. No wonder he can't act out any boyfriend roles in any movies. It's like he lacks common sense on this topic, and I was having a hard time imagining how he grew up to have this type of attitude. No. I don't want to have sex with you. Do you understand? I repeated. No, I don't. Girls are always over me. I get it. I mean, with this face and this body plus the fact that I'm Eros. Everyone wants to sleep with me, Eros said, like that was a problem for him too. I don't. I confirmed my preference again. That's what I thought. You're different. And I want to know why, he said as his eyes narrowed at me. He's so close. Well, we could start with this. What's your real name? It's not Eros, is it? I asked. His eyes widened in slight surprise before he narrowed them and watched me closely. I'm Sean, he replied. How he spoke just now seemed quite different from how he spoke before. That was when it occurred to me that my guess was probably spot on. Eros and Sean are not exactly the same person. Eros was strictly his public persona and Sean was probably his true self. Now, the question was, who am I supposed to be dating? I'm Elena, I replied without breaking eye contact. Elena, don't you want to know if two people who don't believe in love like us can come to understand it? Sean asked. I don't think I can fall in love and that's not what I'm looking for. Unfortunately, because I don't know anything about love, there is nothing that I can teach you, I said decisively. You were married, right? It said so in your profile, Sean said as rolled his eyes up as if recalling something. Yes, I replied plainly. Did you love him? Your ex-husband, I mean. Sean asked, sounding extremely interested. Well, if you really wanted to know then. No, I didn't love him, I replied smoothly. Did you have sex with him? He probed further. Of course, I did, I replied truthfully. I slept with him until he didn't want to anymore. Great. So, you can sleep with guys you don't have any feelings for, Sean said excitedly. Huh. I said in confusion. That's great. You and me, we're the same, Sean continued as his eyes lit up. What are you saying? I asked suspiciously. If you're waiting for me to beg you to date me because I'm looking for romance, you're about to be sorely disappointed. I don't give two fucks about that crap. But you see, I have my own reasons for making it big in the entertainment industry, and if I have to be able to act as some romantic love-striking bloke on screen to get there, then I'll do whatever it takes to make it, Sean said, and everything about him seemed to darken. I see. So, I guess this is Sean. I said with a nod of my head. That's right. This is Sean. I have my own reasons and you have yours. It's money that you want, right? Name the price and my agency will pay it. It's not every day that I find a girl who's pretty to look at that doesn't want me to screw her on the spot. Yet you can sleep around with guys that you have no feelings for. We're so alike that it's funny. Faking a relationship with you would be perfect for me, Sean said before he smiled a little at me. I arched a brow at him, unable to process what I was hearing. By some twisted logic, he now views me as the perfect candidate to be his fake girlfriend. I glanced down as I thought about what he had just said. Partly, I had to admit that he was right. We both had our reasons and our own objectives, and if our needs just happen to match, then what's the harm of entering into a contract with each other? My 15 minutes is almost up. What will you decide, Elena? Sean asked softly. Shit. One question. Why do you dislike women so much? I asked just out of pure personal curiosity. He smiled a little at me, but his smile did not reach his eyes. If anything, he seemed slightly angry. They're all troublemakers. That's all, Sean replied, and the smile did not disappear from his lips. To be continued. Chapter 47. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 47. Gobbling me up. I wasn't sure what he meant, but I was partly appreciative of the fact that he wasn't dodging my question. At least, he was willing to be honest even if he did not provide me with a lot of details. Plus, his dislike or liking of women had nothing to do with me. I look forward to working with you, Sean, I said as I held out a hand towards him for a shake. Sean burst out laughing before his much larger hand enveloped mine in a firm handshake. However, that wasn't all that he had in mind. Suddenly, my body was pulled forward against his and the smell of his shampoo, soap, cologne, and everything else filled my senses. I felt his arm around my back and his hand holding the back of my neck. His soft blonde hair brushed against my cheek softly before I felt the warmth of his breath against my neck. I felt goosebumps on my skin when I realized that he was sniffing my scent. Sean. I said his name, stunned at his sudden action. Elena, he whispered my name close to my neck before I felt a warm and wet sensation run along the sensitive skin of my neck. What do you think you're doing? I asked coldly. Instead of replying to my question, Sean chose to start sucking softly on my neck instead. The sensation felt strangely pleasurable, although I could sense that Sean wasn't doing this out of sexual desire. If I had to describe it, it felt like he was hungry and eager to taste me. "You smell and taste so sweet that I can't wait to gobble you up, Elena," Sean said after his lips stopped sucking on the side of my neck. Ednell.co, are you done? I asked. For today. My 15 minutes are up, Sean said with apparent regret in his voice, and for a moment he looked like a disappointed child. Sean was right about his time running out. There were loud knocks on the door and the sound of his manager calling for him quickly followed. "Eros. We have to leave now," the manager shouted as he continued to pound on the door. "He's so annoying. Everyone's so annoying," Sean said as he got up from the sofa. When the door opened, Sean had reverted to the very professional Eros once more. It was outrageously impressive how the air and everything about him changed when he made the switch. The manager glanced over at me as if to check that I was still alive and in one piece. I smiled reassuringly back at him to tell him that I was fine. "You have an interview to go to now. Get dressed immediately. The stylist team is waiting for you. We leave immediately when you're done," the manager said sternly. I watched Eros follow behind his manager with both hands tucked in the pockets of his baggy pants. While my eyes were on him, Justin quickly approached me. "How did it go? What did he say? Are you going to take the job? Is he okay with you?" Justin bombarded me with a rapid flow of questions. "It went well. It doesn't matter what he said. I'll take the job, and yes, he's okay with me," I replied to all of his questions in one breath. "Really?" Justin asked with apparent shock. "Yes. Put some outrageous number for the fee, please. This guy that he's not normal," I said as I shook my head from side to side. "I bet none of them are," Justin said as he faked an overly shiver of fear. It was a Sunday, and just like how Sundays are supposed to be spent, I was relaxing on my bed when the doorbell to my apartment rang. Only 3 people knew that I lived here. One was the real estate agent, the other was the building manager, and the last one was Justin. Therefore, it was definitely Justin. "Wow. Honestly, didn't expect you to drop by my place on a Sunday," I said lazily. "It's not about whether or not it's Sunday. This place is that I don't even want to start," Justin said before closing his eyes as if in pain. "Stop complaining. Are you coming in or not?" I asked as I leaned against the doorway and squinted at him. "Why don't you get a bigger room in a newer building? Don't tell me that you can't afford it because you can afford it now," Justin asked in wonder. "It's fine. I like this place. It's so small and homey," I replied unfazed. "It's too small. There's not even a sofa in this room. Where do I sit? On the bed? On the floor?" Justin asked as he wringed his hands about in apparent frustration. I laughed at him before he finally decided to settle on the floor next to the low coffee table that I had bought. In the end, I didn't end up buying a sofa to trade off with having more free space. "Sitting on the floor is relaxing, you know," I told him, and he immediately rolled his eyes at me. "I usually don't work Sundays, but since you're my friend, I'm taking this opportunity to visit you," Justin said with a smile. "Aha," I mumbled. "And I brought you the 3 signed contracts for your rich and awesome billionaire husbands," Justin announced so loudly that I was afraid that the ceiling would collapse on top of us. "They all signed it?" I asked as my hands flew to cover my mouth in disbelief. "Yes. Look here, and here." Justin cried out in joy as his fingers quickly pointed to the 3 signatures on the contracts. "I did it. I just landed 3 jobs. Wow." I swear that Justin had tears swimming in his eyes as he came around and pulled me into a tight hug. It felt like my bones were going to be crushed by his large and powerful arms. Enough, I said as I laughed along with him. "We did it, girl. We did it," Justin said before pulling me into his arms again for another hug. I patted his back with my hand as he struggled to compose himself. It was like a miracle. I wasn't sure what working for the three guys would be like, but it was better to be employed than to be unemployed, I guessed. To be continued. Chapter 48. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 48. First day of work. Okay. So, this is how it's going to work. You're going to have to juggle all three guys, which is going to be very tricky. However, don't worry, they know that they're not the only one using your service, Justin explained. What does that mean? They know that I have other clients. I asked. Exactly. Although by confidentiality, you and I can't tell them who the other clients are. That's a rule. By the way. Justin warned. I see. I replied with an understanding nod. You will split your time in each week between the three guys. 2 days per guy, Mondays to Saturdays, and you have Sunday off. How you split the days is up to you and your guys, but to start off you will spend 2 days with Adrian, then 2 days with Eros, and then 2 days with Brandon, in that order, Justin explained. Is there a particular reason for the order? I asked curiously. No. That's just the order that the contracts were signed. First come first serve basis. Fair and square, Justin replied with confidence. Right. That works, I agreed. Your work ends at midnight, and they pay extra for overtime over that mark. Of course, your work can end early too if they don't need you anymore for the day. It's like being in a relationship, you know. Justin said before trailing off. What about the condition that I asked for? I asked with concern. That's taken care of. All three contracts have a clause prohibiting sexual activities just like you requested, Justin said with a slight nod. Okay. That's a relief, I said before letting out a long breath. Don't let the contract constrain you and the relationship that you develop with your client. Be yourself and do whatever you feel is right and comfortable to you. If you don't want to have a physical relationship with them, you don't need to. However, if you do, the contract can always be amended. Of course, the guys will pay a higher price than they do now. They are aware, and now you too are aware, Justin explained with a slight warning in his tone. All right. I replied softly. Well then, that the game is on. Justin announced proudly as he raised both arms up in the air above his head. You're getting too excited about this. I mumbled before I began to laugh at him. I can't wait to see what the future has in store for you and your three husbands, Justin said with a dreamy look in his eyes. This is your official first day of work. Are you nervous? Justin said as he stood behind me. I stared into the mirror as I applied the final touches of my makeup while seated. Opening my eyes wider, I applied a little more eyeliner and then a touch of light pink lipstick to my lips. Not really. How do I look? I said as I inspected the reflection of my face in the mirror. Justin bent forward and stared into the mirror as well. If you looked any better, it'll look like you're out to seduce the man, Justin joked with a laugh. That's not what I'm aiming to do, but you gotta dress to impress, I said as I stood up. The light pink knee-length dress that matched the shade of my lipstick hugged my body perfectly, showing off my curves. After putting on high-heel shoes, my look was perfect. Since signing the contracts came with some advance payment, I had more than enough money to go shopping for the necessary things that I needed for my assignments. The most important were clothes, accessories, makeup and shoes. Basically, everything that would make me look the part of being these rich and famous men's girlfriends. The shoe that I had on felt funny on my feet. This is what I get for being born with unequal-sized feet. Usually, I get my shoes tailored to fit me, but since my financial crisis started, that wasn't an option anymore. When I have some money to spare, I swear the first thing I'm going to do is get some shoes tailored. I mumbled to myself. Survive your first day first before you start dreaming of shoes and shopping. Never ever lose a client, please. Justin warned as he squinted his eyes at me. Justin was awesome as always, and his agency provided me with a car that was luxurious enough to fit my role. Today is my first day on the job and I am scheduled to spend the day with Adrian at the hospital. Hey. I said when I answered Adrian's call. Have you arrived? He asked, and I could hear concern in his voice. I'm parking the car right now. Don't worry, I didn't get lost, I said, teasing him a little. Where did you park? I can pick you up there, he suggested. There's no need. What about we meet at the hospital's entrance or lobby? I suggested instead. Sure. I'll wait for you there, he readily agreed. Okay. See you soon, I said before I hung up. I applied a touch of lipstick to my lips once again and checked my reflection in the mirror. If this look doesn't turn some heads, then I'm going back to school to retake my courses. When I arrived at the lobby of the hospital, Adrian was already there waiting for me just as he had promised. Honestly, I've never found myself attracted to men in lab coats or doctor's uniform before, but I had to say that the way Adrian had his uniform on top of his sweater and white shirt was quite attractive. Maybe dating a doctor would be an interesting experience. Adrian. I called out to him softly as I approached him. Adrian lifted a hand and waved at me. His charming smile made me feel warm inside, just like the perfect amount of sunlight in the early morning. Good morning, Elena. Is this time too early for you? Adrian asked casually. He's so easy to talk to. If I didn't know who he is, I would find it hard to believe that this easy-going man is the heir of such a large fortune. To be continued. Chapter 49. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. 49. Rescued again? Not at all. The time is perfect, I said before smiling at him. Great. Let's go. I'll show you around. This hospital isn't unique or anything, and the work that I do might be boring for you. Adrian said. I appreciated the effort he was putting in to manage my expectations. However, I was eager to learn more about him, and I was sure that there would be many interesting new things for me to learn. Don't worry. I like learning new things, and I'm sure that your day isn't as boring as you make it sound, I replied cheerfully. Adrian led me around the hospital, and I could tell by the way that the staff stopped to greet him that he was well respected and well-liked by everyone. Adrian attracted a lot of attention, and because he seems so humble, he probably doesn't even realize it. Maybe it's because I'm a woman, but I was more than conscious of the eyes of the other women on us as we walked side by side through the hospital. I wouldn't say that the cold stares from the nurses and other female hospital staff made me feel nervous, but I had to say that it made me feel slightly uncomfortable. I glanced over at Adrian, who was busy introducing me to the various parts of the hospital. The way that he was talking enthusiastically about the place clearly showed that he was passionate about his work and his business. I had to say that I liked that in a man. Adrian was oblivious to the stares and attention that we were attracting to us. The way the women's eyes lingered on him made me realize that Adrian is extremely popular here. Things probably won't go very well when we make our fake relationship official. That's roughly it. Now, I'll show you where I work, Adrian said. You mean like that, your personal office? I asked, sounding interested. Yes. My office, Adrian replied with a small laugh. We walked past a part of the hospital that was quite busy. I guess this means that business is going well if there are so many patients here and all the staff were fully occupied with their work. I watched with genuine interest at the people racing around to help take care of the patients. I didn't know that so many people got sick or needed medical attention in a day. Watch out. Elena. Adrian called out to me suddenly. I whirled around and almost came face to face with a trolley that was being wheeled by a nurse. I was certain that the trolley was going to run into me. Since the equipment stacked on the trolley was high, she probably didn't see me on the other end of the trolley. It's going to hurt. Suddenly, my body was pulled to the side as I felt my body press up against something firm and warm. I let out a panic cry as the trolley ran past. Somehow, I had avoided getting hit. That would have been a disaster, and it's my first day of work too. Elena, are you all right? Adrian spoke from very close to me. Glancing up, I realized that Adrian was looking at me with intense worry from above. I knew that he was very tall, but I didn't think that he was this tall. Maybe I'm slightly on the small side, but even in these heels, he still towers over me. For a moment, I didn't know what to say as his beautiful green eyes gazed intensely into my own. I'm fine. Thank you. For saving me. I managed to say in a shaky and breathless voice. Then I realized that the warmth that I felt was his arms around me and the length of his body pressed against mine. He pulled me into a hug. I'm okay now, so. I said softly. Oh, sorry about that, Adrian said in sudden realization that he was still holding me tightly in his arms. His arms loosened from around me as he let me go and I settled back down on my own 2 feet again as I stood next to him. My heart was beating very fast, and I wasn't sure if it was from the trolley almost hitting me or the fact that I was just in Adrian's arms. It's fine. Thank you for helping me. I guess I'm such a klutz, I said shyly, ending with a slightly nervous laugh. You should be more aware of your surroundings and be careful. I might not be around to save you next time, Adrian said sternly. I'm sorry. I whispered, actually feeling very guilty. I'm not mad. Let's go, Adrian said with a reassuring smile. I could feel the eyes of countless people on us as they watched our exchange. It was obvious that they witnessed that scene and had seen Adrian holding me in his arms just now. If I was concerned with any of that, I forgot all about it when Adrian extended a hand towards me. I looked up into his face as I slowly placed my hand into his much larger one. His fingers really are pretty, I thought as his fingers grasped my hand firmly in his. His hand is so warm, and it made me feel so safe and secure. It was a strange feeling. I've only met Adrian a few times, but since the first time that we met, I felt so assured being with him. It was like I could trust him to take care of me. Maybe it's because that he's a doctor and he's many years older than me that made me feel that he was dependable. Thank you. I whispered. I'm already losing track of the times that I've thanked him today. It's safer this way, right? Adrian said as he began leading me by the hand. Soon enough, we arrived at his private office. I didn't know that there was such a large office building joint to the hospital like this. The office building where the office work was done to manage the hospital wasn't as large as the hospital, but it was still impressive in size. Adrian's office was on the top floor of the building. Unlike the hospital's main building that was filled with doctors, nurses, medical staff and patients, the office building was filled with office workers dressed in smart suits. To be continued. Chapter 50. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 50. Thinking of marriage, this is my office. Sorry if it's a little messy. Adrian said as he led me into his office. Although he mentioned that his office is messy, his office is anything but. It was clean and well organized. As I was looking around the large room, Adrian had shrugged off his doctor gown and placed it on a coat hanger. I turned around and saw him putting on a gray suit that matched his pants instead. Switching modes? I asked. Yes. Maybe you've already figured, but my main job here is managing the business. I do work as a doctor sometimes, but I rarely get to do that anymore. Adrian said with slight regret in his voice. Adrian had a different vibe now that he was in a suit instead of the doctor uniform. It was a pleasant change. I wondered how he juggled between the two hats, and I had a feeling that I was about to find out. I have a couple of meetings today with the management team and then late in the afternoon a VVIP patient is coming in, Adrian explained his schedule for the day. So what am I supposed to do here? What can I help you with? I asked enthusiastically. You don't have to do anything. Just keep me company, Adrian said about a short moment of thought. Is it really that easy? I asked as I cocked my head to the side. Yes, you just have to keep me company. Your job is simply that easy, Adrian reaffirmed with a smile. Isn't there something that I can help out with? I'll feel quite useless and guilty if I'm not doing anything useful, I said, meaning it. After all, I'm being paid quite a hefty sum to be here. If that's the case, you can help me with some work and attend some meetings with me. How's that? Adrian suggested. Sure. I'm happy to do that, I quickly agreed. Then let's go. Adrian said as he led me out of his office. The management meeting was held in a large meeting room where senior-looking men and women sat at a long meeting table. When we walked in, everyone was already seated as if they were waiting for Adrian. There was an unoccupied seat at the head of the table, and clearly that was where Adrian was supposed to sit. The question was, where do I sit, or should I stand to the side? I'll grab you a chair, Elena, Adrian whispered to me. No, I can do that, I quickly protested. Don't worry. You don't even know where to grab a chair from, Adrian said reassuringly as he patted my shoulder and left the meeting room. Once again, I could feel the eyes of the various people on me. They probably wondered who I was and what was I doing here when they're about to have a meeting with Adrian. Here you go, Adrian said when he returned. I watched as he placed the chair next to his own and gestured for me to take a seat. Nodding my head to him in thanks, I sat down on the chair and Adrian took the seat next to me. Before we start, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to Elena. She'll be helping me out starting today. I figured that if we're thinking of marriage, it might be beneficial for her to know more about my family business, Adrian said as he addressed everyone in the room. Thinking of marriage. My eyes widened at his words of introduction as my head whipped around to face him. Adrian glanced over at me and smiled a little wickedly. I don't remember agreeing to this. Weren't we just playing at being boyfriend and girlfriend? I can't believe he just said that so casually. Things are progressing a little fast. Hello everyone. It's an honor to meet you all. My name is Elena, I introduced myself politely before offering everyone a perfect smile. I could tell that everyone was frankly very surprised at this sudden introduction. Well, so was I. Thankfully, I was dressed up quite nicely for the role and wouldn't bring any shame to Adrian and his ultra-rich family. Everyone expressed their greeting and soon the room settled down again and the meeting went ahead. I could understand what was going on in the meeting quite well. They discussed business performance of the various hospital branches and future expansion plans. Adrian was clearly in charge and dictated the direction of the conversation. I had to admit that I was impressed at how well Adrian dealt with the questions directed at him and how he politely treated his managers. Was it boring for you? It must have been. Adrian asked before answering his own question for me. Not at all. I actually found it very interesting. I have a degree in business, but I've never really worked before. I said before trailing off. I never worked before because right after graduation, I married George just like how my parents wanted. I never got the opportunity to do any real work, but that wasn't something that I wanted to bring up right now. You're still young. You can start working anytime, so don't worry, Adrian replied without probing into my personal life. I offered him a small smile in thanks, and we dropped that conversation. The meetings that Adrian had lined up for the day were over and we headed back to his office. Since I had been seated almost all day, I hadn't realized until now that my right ankle hurts a little with every step that I took. It didn't really bother me since I could still walk, but I wondered if I sprained it or hurt it somehow when Adrian helped me avoid the oncoming trolley from earlier this morning. When we arrived back in his personal office, I sat down on the sofa in the middle of the room as I watched Adrian walk over to his work table. What's up next? I asked curiously. A VVIP patient is coming to our hospital. He's a politician. I'm sure you'll recognize him when you see him, Adrian replied casually. To be continued.